Hello everyone and welcome to another Make It Monday. I'm Sarah with Beyond Fabric and today we're going to continue our Pillow Palooza series. We still have one more after this definitely before we do our drawing for the ruler. So make sure to follow the posts below. It's going to lead you to a Facebook link where you can enter into the sweepstakes. You just have to comment under that link and you're automatically entered. So good luck. We'll do the drawing in July. So today in our Pillow series, we are going to do a corded with a zipper, it's hidden, zipper, invisible zipper, corded pillow cover. Let's go ahead and toss that out of the way and let's get started on making one. So this is our pillow form. It is a 14 by 20. It's a lumbar pillow. So when we go to decide how we want to cut our pieces, we need to determine what our size is going to be. To do that, remember when we talked before, if it is 14 or below, the finished is going to be whatever that number is. If it's between 15 and 16, it's going to be 1 inch shorter. Over 16, so 17 and above, you want it to be 2 inches smaller. So with a 14 by 20, if we're using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, our cut size will be a 15 by 19, so that our finished would be a 14 by 18. So here's our pillow form. And I've already cut our pieces to allow for our seam allowance. So again, if you're using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, make sure to add that in. If you're using a 3/8 seam allowance, make sure to add 3/4 of an inch. So 3/8 plus 3/8 for each side. So with our pieces cut, we're going to take our ruler that you could win. It's my favorite ruler if you're ever doing pillows. It's a must-have. It's a Home Sewing Depot ruler. It is on our website. It's going to give you a nice tapered corner so you don't end up with those dog ears. So let's get a close-up and look at cutting these corners out. With our ruler, we have the straight edge lined up here and the straight edge lined up here with our pillow, and we are going to cut this out so we have our tapered corner. I do have both pieces right sides together already, so they're getting cut out at one time. Now flip and go to the next corner. Make sure you have it lined up. Line it up with the straight side. Line it up with the straight side on the bottom. Hold and cut. And cut. Go to the next one. And we'll see if we can cut from this angle, because normally I would go around the table. And your last corner. All right, there we have it. Now we have our corners cut out for both sides of our pillow. And then if you have a directional print, like this one is directional, this will be our bottom where the zipper is. So you can either pin it, so you make sure when you get to the machine, you're always using this as the bottom. If you have a nap, the same thing, you want to indicate where the bottom where the zipper is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and either do a zigzag stitch along this raw edge where my zipper will be, or you can use your serger and serge along it. So get that done and meet me back here. We have serged the bottom edge where our zipper will go. So you see, you could serge it or zigzag stitch. And we're going to put these over to the side because we need to make cording. Well, cording comes in many sizes. We are going to be using the 5/32 today. It's a medium welt, so it's got a little bit more body to it, so it keeps its shape when you cover it. So this is what we're using today. We have more than enough to go around the pillow. We want to make sure we have extra. You don't want to have it right exactly at the size because we have to be able to join it. And then I've already cut my bias pieces of welt piping strips. And to show you what I'm talking about, this was my piece of fabric I had cut. So you can cut your strips straight across if you want, because this really is not something that is curvy. If it is curvy, like a round pillow or a bolster or even a curved cushion, definitely cut your piping on a bias. But since this is square, you could just do it regular, straight across. However, I prefer my piping on a bias. It just goes a little bit smoother around those corners. So when you're doing it on a bias, you see my weird shaped piece here. So the fabric was folded at a 45. And then my strips were cut. And that way it gave me bias pieces. So I don't know if you could see this, but see how it still stretches a little bit? So it gives you a little bit more give. If you were to cut it straight across, and I'm pretty sure you can hear that. See how it's very taut. So we are going to use our bias strips. So we've already cut some strips, and we're going to show you how to join them because this was not long enough to go all the way around the pillow. So you take your right side, face it up, take your other right side, face it down. So we have our right side facing up, our right side facing down, and we're going to take our ruler, and from this corner to that corner, you are going to draw a line. Because I'm working on darker fabric, I am using the Choco liner. So now I have my mark from this corner to this corner. You can clip it or put a pen in it because we are going to go over to the machine and stitch right on that line. Stitch. All right, we're going to sew from the top to the bottom. Because we're starting right on the edge, you may want to have a lead to get it started. So we have sewn from start to bottom. Unclip. Before you cut that off, make sure that you have it in the correct direction. And we do. So you can cut it off. You're going to finger press that open. Maybe. There it goes. And now we have our bias strip connected. So we will have one continuous strip of welt piping. Okay, make sure that's pressed flat, and let's go ahead and make our piping. Now you can use a piping foot if you have one. Most of us do not though, especially if this is the first time we're making one of these, so you can always use your zipper foot. So we're going to show today how to do the piping with your zipper foot. My zipper foot is fully adjustable, so I can either move my needle, or if you're unable to move your needle, you can actually move the foot too. So this is a great foot for a machine where you're not able to be as customizable with your needle placement. So you're going to take your welt cord and you're going to sandwich it in between your strip that you cut. Now again, this was a 5/32 cord. My strips are cut 1.5 inches. That way I have enough for a seam allowance to put into my pillow. So we're going to fold it over. The edges are going to match up and we're going to stitch right beside the cord. Now we're not going to get super close at this point. The reason why is because we still are going to attach it to our pillow. So when we go to attach it to the pillow, we want to make sure that that is the closest stitch. So we don't want to see this basically basting stitch when we are making our piping. So we are going to fold it over and stitch. Now we are keeping this pretty tight, but not pulling it too much. We don't want wavy cording. If you are doing a lot of pillows with the same piping, this is where you would connect a bunch of strips and just make a long continuous welt piping, so that when you go to make your pillows, you're not figuring out per pillow, okay, well this is the amount for this one, this is the amount for that one. Just make one long continuous cording strip. lining up these edges and stitching. When we get to where our join is, we want to make sure that that join is flat. If this makes you nervous doing it along the way, you can always put a bunch of clips so it's clipped in place and then stitch it in. So make sure that that is flat and stitch. Again, welt cord comes in so many different sizes. So you can be super creative when you're making your pillows. About to be at the end of the cord. Now we have some bias welt piping that we can connect to our pillow. So now that we have our welt piping done, let's double check, make sure we have plenty to go around our pillow. And we do, so let's sew it to one side. To begin putting our cording on, we want to make sure we are not starting it where our zipper is going to be, and we're not starting it on a corner. So we're going to go over to this side, and we want a little bit of a tail left, and we're going to start right here. So once you get your cording on there, we're lining up this edge with our pillow edge, and we start stitching it on. Keep it lined up. When we get to the corner, we are going to put some notches in it, just the piping. The reason why is so that we can turn that corner. So needle down, and we're going to pivot. Make sure that edges are still lined up, and continue sewing. Edges lined up, and continue sewing. Get to your next corner, notch, needle down, pivot, and again, we're just attaching this to one side of the pillow. We don't have to be super duper close to the welt cording yet, because that will come when we attach the two sides together. close to the end here. Let's go ahead and notch. Go down and pivot. Now on this bottom, this is where the zipper is going to be. So on this, we definitely want to make sure that we are stitching at least where that basting stitch was to make it, or a little bit over, because there will be no connecting on this other than to a zipper. To the corner, let's go ahead and clip it. Needle down and pivot. Now, we need to leave room to be able to connect it. So we're going to go ahead and stop it. And now we're going to show how to join our cording. We want this to be nice, clean, and easy too. So let's go ahead and cut this nice and straight. So we have this end, which has to connect to this end. So making sure that it's nice and straight, all our bubbles are out, just as if we were to sew this. See right here, where the two line up together, you are going to make a notch in that top one. Not all the way through, we don't want to cut this off. So you see you have your bottom piece that was cut straight, and then you have your top piece that we have notched where they line up together. So now we don't need all this excess, so save about 5 to 6 inches. And throw the other piece away. And then you're going to take your seam ripper and you're going to open up that cording that we had sewn all the way back to where we had stopped. So we see our notches here. Now go to the other side and do the same thing. We need to open this up because we have to join these together. Now, this piece needs to connect to this piece. So we're going to move our cord out of the way and we're going to lay this flat so you can see. Clip him back here. So we have our notch, we have our notch. We want to take these just like when we were making the strips and we're going to put them right sides together. Just like when we joined the strips, this line here is going to line up with your notches. So our notches is our indicator of where it should go. And from there, you're going to connect a line from this point to that point. We're going to go ahead and hold that in place on our notches. Now get our ruler and draw a line. So we are connecting from point to point. And now we are going to go sew from point to point. that's just a little lead cloth so it doesn't suck in where this point is. Some machines won't, others will. Before we cut this off, make sure that we did it correctly. So let's unclip all the madness. So now that we know it works, let's go ahead and cut that off. Finger press it open. So this cord will lay here. This cord is going to butt up to it. Don't want to take too much off just in the beginning, just to make sure when we start sewing that they will line up. So now go back to your cording to stitch it on. So those are going to line up together. This lines up with the edge and it folds over. If you have to use your stiletto, make sure that those stay butted up against each other. Still lined up, all is good. And ta-da! One joined cording strip. Now let's attach the other piece. In order to join our pieces together, we have to put in a zipper. So we have an invisible zipper here. Let's make sure it works. And it does. Now, the most important thing we're going to do with this invisible zipper is we are going to open up this coil, roll that coil over, and press it. So you have a zipper tape attached to your zipper coil. So we want to open it and press on that zipper tape part, not the coil part. We don't want to burn our coils to where we can't use our zipper. And while I was attaching piping, my iron went off, so we're going to give it a minute to heat back up. So again, we're pressing from the tape side. You can use a press cloth here as well. I'm just opening up that coil and pressing on the tape. We're getting there. It's not quite hot enough, but all right, one side done, and let's go back to the other side now that the iron is hot. All right, we have our zipper pressed. Now let's go to where our zipper side is, and we have it marked so it's easy to find. And we're going to attach this right up to the cording. We're going to take our basting tape. It's awesome tape. It's on our website. It's $2.69, and there's almost 9 yards. It's 8 1/3 yards on here. It's an 1/8 inch double-sided tape. We are putting it right along the edge. Press it down and remove the top side. So you see the shiny, that's where the adhesive is, and that's what's going to help hold our zipper in place while we stitch it on. As you notice, my zipper is longer than my pillow. I typically do this because I like to get that pull out of my way so I don't have to try to sew up against it. So with an invisible zipper, your pull goes face down because when you're using your zipper, you need your pull up. So line up the edge here, and we're just going to press right along our cording. We have it pressed. Now we're going to go sew right along that coil. I am using a larger needle to sew with today since we're using multiple layers and home deck weight fabric. We have stitched it on. Let's cut the thread and make sure our zipper works. So I like to do it a couple of times just to get it going. Everything looks good. So with it closed, let's go connect the other piece. So we want to make sure that when we connect to the other part of your pillow, that the zipper lines up evenly, just like with this side, because if not, it'll be wonky and you'll have some pulling. So we're going to make some notches on the end here where our zipper tape is. These are going to be used to line up the other side. So we have the notches. Now the notches need to be transferred to the other side. So if we line up where this notch is here on our mat, then you can go opposite it. Try and do it backwards here. And make a notch. So now they line up on both sides. This takes some of the math out of it, where you just have to make sure they line up. That's it. Super easy. So we have our line right here, and now we have it opposite it. So go ahead and open your zipper back up. So we have our zipper opened up. We know that this part of our pillow has to go right sides together so that when we flip it right side out, both right sides are facing out. Here's where our zipper gets attached. So let's fold this up and put the basting tape along the edge. Peel off the top layer. Maybe. Now our zipper tape has to go like this. So we're going to find that notch we made. That first notch, remember, is the end of our pillow. So line up that notch with the end of your pillow. Get it stuck. Go to the other side and line up this notch with the end of the pillow. Don't stick yourself to it. And now we're going to ease in the rest of it. This is when you need like another hand. Or just work your way to the middle. Okay, so we have it eased in, our notch here at the end of the pillow, our other notch at the end of the pillow, so we know that our notches are going to line up, so our pillows will line up, pillow sides will line up, and we're going to stitch right along the coil. Now with our right sides facing up, let's go ahead and zipper it. Yay, it zips, lines up. Here we go. Go ahead and open it back up. Fold it over right sides together. And we need to stitch right here where the cording, you can see the cording stitch. We're going to stitch right there to close up the end of that zipper. And do be careful here because we do not want to run over our zipper. Trust me, the machine does not like it. It makes a horrible noise. So we have back stitched. I'm just going to stitch right along here. Let's make sure we got it. So there we are. It's joined together. So we have a nice stop so our zipper doesn't go all the way to that corner. We're going to do the same thing with the other side. Make sure our teeth are up. We still can use those notches to make sure they are lined up. We'll put some clips in. Again, we're using that stitch line from our piping to go by. Let's check it. So now we are checking it. Looks good. So we have an area where our zipper pull will go to and then stop. We don't want it stopping on the corner. Now let's connect the sides together. So take your corners. We're going to match up our corners here of our pillow. We're going to put a clip on it. Or you could pin it. We're going to do the same thing with the other side. One more in the middle here. And one right here. We are going to sew from the side where we saw our piping stitch. So this is where we connected the piping. So we're going to sew from this side, so we make sure we are sewing on this side of the line so that you don't see your basting. So when you sew on this side of the line, it's connecting all layers together and you will not see any stitching. So we're going to start down here at the bottom. On that corner, you can take your stiletto. Make sure to push it nice and flat. Needle down, pivot. I need to adjust my foot real quick. Okay, now we're getting super close. good thing about having it adjustable. So keeping these lined up on the edge here. So if you need to put a lot of clips, go ahead and clip the heck out of it. And then we're just stitching on that side. I'm using black thread. You can see it so you know where I'm talking about. At this point, you could always match up with your lighter fabric, but the piping is black, so we're going with black. So our corners are still lined up. When you get to the corner, we're going to pivot. And keep our edges lined up. Remember, when we get over to this corner, we're going to push it down, make sure everything's laying flat. You can always use your extra finger here to hold it in place. This is where we joined our cording. So you see how it kind of goes out a little bit? We're going to make sure we definitely stitch it in further here. And this will be a thicker area because you have where the join is. There we go. Remember, when we get to this corner, take and press it down nice and flat. Pivot. All right, now let's go ahead and clip these corners. So we don't need this extra tail on our zipper, so let's just make him go away. And then we're also going to take and clip away that excess fabric, so that when we flip it, we actually have a nice point. So you see the stitching, we are closer to the cording this time, so when we flip, there will be no stitches showing. Just a little bit more of it. All right, so our corners are clipped. Now flip. So we left our zipper open, and if you didn't leave your zipper open, I'm sorry, this is going to take a little while to try to get it back open. But hopefully you left your zipper open, so now we're just going to flip it right sides out. We're going to take our stiletto, and we're going to push those corners so we get a nice point. And while we're doing this, we're also checking and making sure that we did stitch on the right side of the cording so that we don't have any areas that show. Because now's the time where you can go and fix it. Everything looks good. I don't see any stitching. Okay, our corners are poked out. Let's remove the pin. Nice and even. Now let's stuff that pillow in there. We want to make sure that the corners go into the corners. Everything looks good. And now we're going to zip it shut. So let's get a close up here. So when we were doing that, joining the two pieces right along the cording, we're basically creating a stop for our zipper pull to go to. So now you can see what we were talking about. So it just ends right there. And then of course it ends over here, nice and hidden, nice and full. Shake it. And now you have a lovely welt corded invisible zipper pillow. Make sure to join us again for another Make It Monday. We have one more definitely for the Pillow Palooza, and then we'll be doing our drawing in July, so make sure to go to that post where you can comment and automatically get entered to win. You could follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe so you get notified every time we post a new video. Thank you again for joining us for Make It Monday.